You find out that you're pregnant, you go to the doctor, you have an uneventful pregnancy, you're doing everything that your doctors and medical professionals are telling you, and everything seems to be going in the right direction. When it's time to give birth, you show up to the hospital. Again, everything is looking like it's going in the right direction. You have your birthing plan in place, you've got your family and your support system, and now the only thing that needs to happen is you need to have the baby. During labor and delivery, though, you learn that some things begin to happen, some challenges begin to show up. And then when your baby is born, you learn that your baby's had seizures, or there had to be a handoff to the NICU. There may have been resuscitation, oxygen, hypothermia, cooling. And with all of this, you learn that your baby has suffered a traumatic brain injury like HIE, hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. And now your questions are, how did something like this happen, especially when your pregnancy was uneventful and everything seemed like it was going in the right direction? My name is Marcus Boston, and I am a birth injury or birth trauma attorney. And what I do is I help families understand the cause of their baby's traumatic brain injury at birth when they have questions as to how something like this happened. And one question that I get a lot, and I'm going to cover in this video, is essentially, how long after birth can you make an HIE claim? And what this question is really getting to from a medical legal standpoint is, how long do you have before you can file a claim or sue if you believe that the doctors or the nurses or the hospital are the ones who are responsible for your baby's traumatic brain injury? What this question is essentially getting at today is a statute of limitations question. That's really what it's getting at. And when I'm talking about statute of limitations, the law in general gives you a certain amount of time that you have before you have to bring claims. And I'm not going to give you a hard number in this video because I don't know where you are watching this video. I'm in Maryland, and Maryland has specific time frames for things like this. But I'm going to help you understand the issues that present themselves when you're trying to figure this thing out. Now, there are multiple claims in some instances that can be brought when we're talking about suing when a baby has suffered a traumatic brain injury at birth. The parents, in some instances, they may have specific claims, and the baby may have specific claims. And the statute of limitations, or the time needed to bring a lawsuit, it can vary depending on the types of claims that are being brought. And so that is why it is important that if you suspect that your baby has suffered a traumatic brain injury and it was the fault of the doctors, the nurse, or the hospital, that you speak with someone as soon as you can with that. Because, like I said, the law gives a time frame that you have before you have to bring these claims. Now, in a lot of instances, a lot of times the parents will have a shorter statute of limitations than the baby. Now, this is not a guarantee all across the board. In general, that is how it can work in a lot of states. But that is something that, like I said, if you have concerns, you need to speak with a birth trauma or a birth injury attorney as soon as you can, especially when you suspect that the doctors, the nurse, or the hospital are responsible, so you do not miss these time frames. These statute of limitations, sometimes there can be things that you can argue if you went past the statute of limitations, but that's something that you don't want to get into that area, because these can be hard rules in a lot of instances, and the exceptions, they have to fit perfectly for these certain types of exceptions to be able to work. So I know I talked about a lot in this video, but I'm trying to help you understand that the time frame for bringing these types of claims is going to vary. It can vary from state to state and from the type of claim that you may have. Parents' claim versus the baby's claim. If you have more questions, there is a telephone number down below. Maybe you are here because your baby has suffered a traumatic brain injury at birth like HIE, and you have questions as to the cause. Maybe you want my office to do what we call a birth injury investigation for you to help you understand what may have caused the injury. If that is you, what I invite you to do, pick up the phone and call me. I talk with families like yours all the time about these issues. Remember, It costs you absolutely nothing initially to talk with me about your baby story. When you contact my office, be sure that you leave my secretary a date and a time for us to be able to get back in touch with you. A date and a time, that is important. One more thing before I get out of here. I've kind of already mentioned it earlier in the video, but I practice law here in the state of Maryland. And I know from time to time, I will have individuals who will contact me, they'll contact my office, and they will not be in Maryland. They'll be in the United States, but they're not in Maryland. If that is you, understand that we have to use what we call co-counsel or local counsel. In other words, an attorney in your state. And that's something that we can work to help you on. But I just want to make sure that you understand that local counsel or that co-counsel aspect of things if you are not here in the state of Maryland. All right, that's going to be it for today's quick educational video. Again, I'm Marcus Boston, and I'm one of the childbirth injury and medical malpractice attorneys practicing law here in the state of Maryland at Boston Law Group, LLC. We'll talk with you next time. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.